First, I want to thank you very much to all of you, to Achim Steiner, to the UNEP, and all the participants in this two-day working project. First, I would like to say that this document, it's involving mitigation, adaptation, technology transfer, financing, and very clear goals. Like in the first paragraph, it establishes, as Jim said, not more than 2 grade centigrade, not more than 450 parts per million of CO2, and to keep the goal to reduce 50% of emissions by the year 2050. So I think that the first thing we need to do is, as Jim said, go back to our own countries and promote and explain and be sure that everybody knows about this document, so important document. We consider this document the most important kind of agreement, not in the part of the convention frame, but what the private sector is really doing, is committed to do. Second, this document needs to be considered as a catalyst towards Cancun. And I think that we have in the future 2 main events. First, to have a side event in Cancun in which the private sector could explain to the negotiators, to the ministers, to the parties, to the delegations, what is the kind of commitment that the private sector is doing now. And second, we need to think what are going to do our governments to solve many of these issues in order to give a better performance in the private sector to do more. And I think that this document is very helpful towards Cancun. This document must find the way to Tianjin, China, in order that the negotiators could see exactly which kind of goals, which kind of commitments is doing the private sector. I agree what George said. It is clear that the private sector is in a marathon, but they are doing at the same time some kind of a sprint. They are running very fast. We would like to see many of the governments of the world not decided to make some decisions. And I would say we need to make some decisions, and we cannot be looking all the time for our political future. We need to make some decisions when the country needs, where the people needs. And with this in mind, I think if we can continue working with this kind of agreement, it will help to the Cancun negotiations and bring, as you mentioned before, a kind of momentum to the days that we want to change many of the things that we are doing. And my final comment is that we can see the possibility that the private sector could create the public policy. When the governments cannot do that, when the governments don't want to do that, the private sector can do many things to change the traditional way of thinking, of working, of developing, and emitting gases to the atmosphere. So we need to continue working in this and add every time more parts or more parts of the society in order to give to the society of the world an answer, a hope that they are desperately waiting for us.
Minister Quesada, thank you very much indeed. I think we'll all be very heartened by the commitments which you have made. I'm very interested also to hear your reference to the role that business can play in shaping public policy, which goes really back to Jim's point, but also business's role in creating markets. Of course, governments set the framework and the regulations and transparency. We've heard a lot about that. But businesses can do a lot by themselves through their innovation, through bringing new products to the market, new services to the market. They can themselves help to build the green economy, and we really see both these processes which need to happen at the same time. We've got just a few minutes left, so I want to turn very briefly to all of you once again with just a very, very simple question, which is, do you feel more or less optimistic today than you did 2 days ago, and why? Arab?
Listening of what has come out from the working groups in the different sectors, listening to the different commitments from the companies, I would say I would be more optimistic. But these are just cases, and we need to find the ways and means to scale them up, to put all this together. We need to seize the right opportunities for investment, green jobs. And what we have taken from here, we should now find for it the multiplier effect. For Cancun, after Cancun, we're just talking the work, we're moving on. We should not stop here. And as the minister said, we have these messages here. We need to now go with them, communicate, outreach, but also look at the practical solutions for implementation through partnerships and innovation, as was the purpose of this meeting.
Georg?
To be frank, unchanged, optimistic, because this meeting to me confirmed that the long-term trends clearly point in the direction that climate action, sustainability is absolutely an imperative. It will happen. All the long-term trends, if you apply some rational thinking on it, reinforces that. The meeting confirms that there's strong momentum going on. As we meet here, Principles for Responsible Investment, our sister initiative dealing with institutional investors, is meeting in San Francisco, and a similar message is coming out from there. They're also adopting a statement in support of climate action. So it's not only business, it's also investors that are getting on the long-term trend recognition and starting to internalize what is bound to happen anyway. So I think the voice of reason will increasingly find its way, and these bottom-up pockets of solutions will increasingly translate into tipping point constellations, be it at country level or at multilateral level, and it's a question of time. So this meeting has given impetus and reinforcement, but I remain very optimistic. Change is bound to happen, it will happen, it must happen.
Jim?
More optimistic. That's the
right answer, by the way.
No, I mean, this has been a difficult year on this issue because we've had some parts of the business community and some parts of the political community out there really actively trying to undermine the effort to come to grips with this challenge and sowing all sorts of misinformation and confusion around what was really happening with climate change. And to me, what is heartening in this discussion is several things over these 2 days. One is the strength of the statement. I mean, the first line for me is worth the whole statement. I mean, that is the unequivocal statement that this is the most urgent challenge that we face, economically, environmentally, in every way. And that is for me clearly true, but also very important that business is saying that without equivocation. Okay. But then secondly, I see a shift in this conversation from a year or two ago. We are talking more and more about solutions and not just about the problem, as has been said several times. But I think that also opens up a different kind of dynamic in how we think about this as a business proposition. And you have companies here really talking about opportunity, about moving in the right direction for all sorts of business reasons, not just as a matter of responsibility. And that's a much more reliable mover than responsibility. So I think that's quite encouraging. And I think if we can follow this up in the ways I've suggested, to really drive it home to decision makers, that will make a big difference.
Minister, our hopes to some degree rest on you, so I hope you're optimistic.
Yeah, I must say that I can remember very well yesterday when Mr. Al Gore said that we need to define who has more power, the money or the reason. And in this case, we are seeing 300 companies from 20 different countries around the world. They have the reason, but they have as well a very important kind of investment, technology transfer. And I remember very well when we were flying, coming from Copenhagen into to Mexico after the COP15. And I was thinking, well, it was a good decision for Mexico to be the hostess of the COP16. And I will say first that we needed to do that. We are representing Latin America. We needed to be working all the time, all the year long, and that is the reason why I want to thank you very much for this 2 days working. And we decided that it was the best way to be responsible for a world problem. And I find this document very important. I would say that I feel more optimistic, or I have more optimism, optimista en español, sorry. But the point is that I can see that the things are changing, that more key actors are on stage, and they are working very hardly. And I am sure that the next COP16 will be more conscious for everybody, for all the parties. And I think finally that it's our responsibility to go with all the parties, with all the governments, to show to them how it is possible and how do we need to work together all the time.
Thank you very much indeed. Finally, I'd like to ask the audience to thank the hosts of this event, to thank the organizers of this event, to thank the sponsors and business supporters of this event. I also want you to give yourselves a pat on the back as well, because you've been the ones, after all, doing all the hard work, or a lot of the hard work. And finally, I'd like us all together to thank an excellent panel who really summed up what's happened here over the last 2 days and given us a very, very clear and strong message that we can take forward to our businesses, to our homes, and to Cancun. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.